We have Roger from Tech Lab and Christina Kozlowski of Creative Solutions presenting today. Christina is going to present first. Christina helps small businesses and nonprofits nationwide take their websites to the next level. With over 5 years marketing experience within small businesses and nonprofits, Christina pursued her entrepreneurial dream and founded Creative Solutions in 2017 while pursuing her MBA. Between clients, agency work, and collaborations, Christina has worked on nearly 100 websites. Her specialty is website design with search engine optimization. Even though websites are her specialty, she has a wealth of marketing knowledge to share and tips for improving your online presence. And today, she is going to be talking about how to find what you're looking for on Google search. Christina, are you ready to take it away?
I'm ready. Sounds good. Alrighty, so today I will cover Google search and how to better find what you are looking for. First, we'll talk about what it is, how it works, then we'll discuss what you actually type or speak into Google, and wrap up with the various formats of search results. Alrighty, so before we dive in, I just want to say it is important to know there's a difference between Google Chrome and Google search. Google Chrome is a browser similar to Microsoft Edge, Firefox, Safari. The Google search engine can be accessed via any browser via google.com. If you're not sure what your default search engine is, you can look it up and always change it accordingly. Firefox, Safari, and Google Chrome all typically default to the Google search engine. Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer will default to Bing. For today's presentation, we're going to focus on the Google search engine. With 93% of worldwide searches happening in Google, it just makes most sense to direct our efforts there. So, how does Google actually work? When I was going for my master's, I studied data analytics and took classes related to data mining, database administration, and business intelligence. Besides building my first database of cowboy boots, my second favorite aspect was learning the ins and outs of the Google search engine. So, many of the terms I will use today are very common in the database world, but we're going to make them relevant to you in your everyday life. As I learned more about the databases, I was learning how to better use Google for my own searches, but I was also learning how to get content to rank on the first page of Google and rank high on various pages for various terms. Search engine optimization is a service that I include with all my websites. It doesn't make much sense to have a snazzy new website if your customers can't find it. Search engine optimization is the process of increasing the quality and quantity of traffic to your website. Instead of focusing on how I will get the content to rank, today I'm going to cover how to improve your searches so that you can more easily find what you're looking for. So, at a basic level, how does the Google search index really work? Well, you can think of the search index as a library. It is Google's master library of all the index web pages. When you search Google, you enter a phrase or question into the search bar on google.com. In a fraction of a second, Google's search algorithm searches through all the possibilities and then displays a rank order list of the most relevant, useful results in the applicable format. Alrighty, so first we're going to talk about what you type or speak into Google. A search query refers to the specific terms or phrases you enter into the search engine to find what you're looking for. There are three common types of search queries: navigational, informational, and transactional. Navigational queries revolve around finding a website. Facebook, Amazon, YouTube are a few good examples. These navigational queries typically include a brand name. On the other hand, informational queries revolve around finding information to a question or learning how to. These types of searches usually are very broad and include words like how to, question marks, definition. An example could be how to add a cover photo to my Facebook profile. Transactional queries signal an intent to purchase. As you move along your customer journey closer to purchase, you start to get more specific and use intentional keywords like purchase, buy, order, near me. Google Pixel 3 or buy Google Pixel 3 could be two examples. The takeaway here is your intent matters to Google. Google wants to deliver relevant quality search results. So it's important that you're mindful of what you type or say so that Google can deliver search results that meet your goals. If I want to, learn how to something, I'm not going to include the words purchase or buy because that's not going to deliver the search results I'm looking for. It's going to push me to buying a product or a service instead of teaching myself how to do it. Now, when you're typing into Google, in the database world, you can use different types of operators. So when it comes to Google, a search operator is a character or a string of characters used to narrow the focus of a search result. When you search a phrase, a question, a word, Google automatically returns search results related to both X and Y. Thus, if you type beef bacon, or beef and bacon, it means the same thing to Google, and Google will display search results related to beef or bacon. However, say that there's another scenario and you're debating between beef or chicken recipes. You could type beef or chicken into Google, and Google will deliver search results related to beef recipes or chicken recipes. The or operator in turn search results related to one or the other. If you're being super specific and want an exact, complete phrase, using quotations will be very, very helpful. Say I type in country fried steak. It forces an exact search result match. So every single search listing that comes up is going to have that exact phrase, country fried steak. Using quotations can help you refine search results and include synonyms and similar terms. I personally know this is something I use on a daily basis because let's say I'm looking up Whitewater University Innovation Center. I want to find news. If I just type in Whitewater University Innovation Center, it's going to bring up news about Whitewater, Colorado. That's not what I'm looking for. So by using quotations around that phrase, I can zero in for exactly what I'm looking for. Alrighty. And then the last two here, I kind of just include a $sign. You can use that to search for prices. If you were to use the word define, Google will know you're looking for a definition. Personally, I included this slide because I use these. However, I do have to say one caveat. As Google advances, more and more of these are naturally being integrated into the algorithm, and you don't necessarily have to type it or say it. So an example of this could be, the stock operator. If you type in TSLA on Google, you're going to get Tesla stock information. If you type in stock TLSA, you're going to get the same search results. So that's just one example of how Google's evolving. So this slide you might not need to know, but I still think knowing parentheses or and when to use it can be very valuable. Lastly, I wanted to mention, you don't just have to type into Google. You can speak to Google now. Google Voice Search allows users to search the web using Google via voice commands. So these voice search commands change how Google handles search queries and how users search. In recent years, Google continues to launch algorithmic updates to improve its algorithm so it can have semantic search. Semantic search enables Google to handle conversational queries. Advancements in natural language processing allows Google to better understand how people naturally talk and deliver relevant search results. Most voice searches are navigational and involve the words like call, near me, finding, or to help you find a local business, or involve maybe a question mark. The increasing popularity of voice search goes hand in hand with the rise in content marketing and generating content that answers customers' frequently asked questions. Alrighty. So next I wanted to run through various search results formats. So when you type something into Google, in this example I did Justin cowboy boots, you're going to see various search results. So on the left you see advertisements, and then the organic search result listing followed by a local pack. On the right hand side you see more shopping ads and a knowledge graph. We'll talk about each of these specifically and what to expect when you click each. Just personally, when I see this page, I zero in on this organic brand listing. I know I want to go straight to the manufacturer, get their warranty, have no middleman, no price markups. So I want to go right to justinboots.com. Now, if I click on the very first result, I am going to click on some unknown website that sells Justin boots. I'm going to be disappointed because that was not what I wanted. So what I know personally about myself is I favor organic, and that is just kind of a helpful tip that can help you click on the most relevant searches sooner rather than later. So let's talk about these different types of search result formats. A featured snippet is a dedicated block that usually appears at the top of the search results. It is displayed for queries like who, when, what, why. There are different types of featured snippets. So on the left is an example of my very own blog post, 7 Website Essentials for 2020. Google displays a rich answer snippet saying, hey, everyone who searches Websites Essentials 2020, this is the best source of information to go to. Needless to say, I was very excited to see my blog post ranking there, and it also explained how I was getting so much traffic to my website through that post. On the right, I included an example of a travel box that you might see if you search for a phrase related from getting from one destination to another. Google Ads are typically displayed on the top, bottom, and the right of the page. Regardless of where the ad is, you're going to see ads or ad nearby. These words signal this is an advertisement that is created through Google AdWords and is pay per click. Google Ads can come in various formats. So on the lower example on the left-hand side, you can see the search result ads on the left, and then you see the images, and those are the shopping ads. So that could be a whole presentation in itself. Organic search results are search results that Google determines there's no way to pay to get this placement. It is through diligent search engine optimization efforts. And Google usually places top search results for content that is quality, relevant, valuable, and fresh. Let's look at the anatomy of an organic search result. They're all going to be a little bit different depending on what you search. In this example, my query was Zinn Uncommon. The very first listing on the page is the restaurant's website. How do I know this? I see their URL and I see the page title that describes what the page is and what I should expect when I click it. I know I will be going to their homepage. Below it, you will see there's a snippet. A snippet describes exactly what the page is about and is often optimized by the search specialist behind the website. Google can even create its own and override the website's meta description with more relevant copy from the website page. Within the snippet, you'll notice my exact search query is bolded. Google bolds relevant keywords to make it easier to see how that search result is relevant to your query. Sometimes you might notice that a title or snippet is truncated. Google does limit how long your page titles and your descriptions can be. Below the snippet, you see menus, dinner menu, nightly specials, contact. These are all site links. You can think of a site link as like a sub-listing for that web page. Depending on your intent, you will click different links. If I want to know what the special is for tonight, I click nightly specials. If a friend tells me about the restaurant and I just want to learn more about it, I might just go to the homepage and scope out the website and see what it's all about. A site link is a great way to jump to exactly what you're looking for without having to navigate their website. Below that, you'll see more results from Zinn Incredible. If you click that, you will see search results only pertaining to that website. A knowledge graph. There's various forms of knowledge graphs once again. These are very popular for brands, bands, celebrities, movies. So on the left-hand side, you'll see there is a brand knowledge graph. On the right-hand side, there is a carousel knowledge graph. The brand knowledge graph pulls information from Wikipedia and tries to give you a quick synopsis. While the one on the right-hand side, Google's interpreting the search top country songs as something the searcher's wanting options. So it displays a carousel with many options for you to select from. There's also local knowledge graphs. So local knowledge graphs or local listings usually appear on the right-hand side of a search result. If you type in Creative Solutions or Tech Lab, you will see ours. These are controlled through your Google My Business account. Sometimes you'll also see a local pack. The local pack looks like this and displays on the near or at the top of the page and features 3 local service providers for you to choose from. That is a quick overview of various search result formats that Google displays. So how does this help you search better with Google? Well, think about your intent. If you want to find a brand or go to a specific website, make sure you type in the brand or the company name. If you're looking for informational, think about maybe phrase it as a question or include the words how to, so Google knows to give you more do-it-yourself search results rather than, hey, here's a solution you can purchase. You can use search operators to narrow your search. You can use the URL, title, and snippet to determine how relevant that result is going to be. You can use site links to jump right to what you're looking for. You can be mindful of the various ad formats and know what to expect from each. And if your hands are full and you cannot type, you can always use voice search. Alrighty, that concludes my presentation for today. Do you have any questions?
I have an observation instead of a question that on my smartphone, the Google Voice really works fine. You can just talk right into it and it comes right up. It's really a help.
Yes. How long have you been using that?
Since I've had the phones, I don't know, a couple of years.
Okay. It's very cool to see how these technologies are being integrated with our new devices and just become second nature.
Technology is overcoming ability. But it's a very helpful thing to know that it's there. Just it'd be the same thing on my little laptop here. I've got voice recognition, and I can just goes ahead. You can type a letter, you can ask a question, and you don't have to fumble around typing it.
Exactly.
I know you were talking about Google most of the time, but Google Chrome, now I lost it. I've been getting some kind of a message that says every time I go into Google Chrome, and I get a message that says, important, don't lose your coupon search. Add to Chrome to update now. And then it's got a big arrow there that says add to Chrome. What is that and why am I getting that?
Roger?
You want me to take it? Okay.
I think you might be better.
All right. So there are some companies out there that their goal is to get their software onto your computer so that they can monitor the things that you purchase. And it sounds like that's one of those pieces of software. We typically call that malware. And as soon as you allow it to go into your browser, what that actually does is it allows them to watch the things that you're searching for, and they try and take their advertising partners and show you ads that are related to what you're searching for, other companies that are offering those particular products. And you may or may not want them to be quote unquote spying on you on your computer. So I typically advise people to deny those, but really it's up to you.
Well, I haven't clicked on it at all. I just want to know how to keep it from popping up again. I mean, how do I get rid of it?
So it's entirely possible that you already have an infection on the computer from something that was allowed in the past. And there's malware scanners that are out there, or you could potentially bring it into our office and we could help you, or we could even do some remote support and remove it. So there's different ways. The free method that we recommend is Malwarebytes. You can download they have a free version. It's from a very respectable company in Germany that I've known for almost 20 years since I've been in business and prior to being in business. That if you can get that software on your computer, you can tell it to scan and it will remove all the things that it thinks are junk that you wouldn't want.
I have AVG. Is that a reputable scanner?
Yeah, actually AVG is a great free tool, but it's an antivirus tool. It's not an anti-malware tool. And the distinction between antivirus and anti-malware is a virus is designed to attack and destroy your computer, whereas malware is designed to get into your computer and monitor what you're doing. It's not interested in disrupting your life. They're trying to take advantage of your life. So while AVG is a great antivirus product for keeping you safe from various computer viruses that would try and damage your system, a malware removal tool is what you need in order to fix that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I haven't had that that thing pop up until I enrolled in the course at University of Missouri here in St. Louis. And then shortly afterwards, then I noticed this popping up whenever I go into the UMSL website, the gateway. And otherwise, I don't get it. It's just when I go into the UMSL one. So it's related to that then?
It could be. A lot of times it's hard to tell where these things come from. But if we looked at it, we may be able to give you some more information.
I think maybe I can contact their technology department there. Maybe somebody there, the UMSL campus can get rid of it for me.
Yes. Many schools will offer tech support as part of programs that you're enrolled in. But just keep in mind that many of them are run by students, and often it's hit or miss whether you get someone who knows what they're doing. So.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you for presenting, Christina. I have to say that stuff about the search operators, I use that all the time to make sure that I'm getting the results that I want. And you taught me a couple ones that I didn't know of before. So that's awesome. We're gonna move on to Roger's presentation now. Roger is our president at Tech Lab. He started Tech Lab back in 2009 and has been working in IT for 19 years now. So he really knows what he's talking about. He's our chief Techspert here at Tech Lab, and his specialty is making the tech talk to each other. And today he's going to be presenting on Wi-Fi in your home or office. Ready to take it away, Roger?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay. So now that a lot of people are working from home, what companies have been realizing is that Wi-Fi communication is a big deal. And a lot of people have wireless devices, and if Wi-Fi is not working properly, you can't work or shop or use the internet or pretty much be connected to the world. So today we're going to talk a little bit about how it works, what makes it work, and what you can do when it doesn't work. And some of the things that we do to do Wi-Fi analysis and fix issues. So what is Wi-Fi? It's not an acronym for wireless fidelity. A lot of people do think that. But the person who invented Wi-Fi just decided to call it Wi-Fi. It relates to wireless communication. It's a type of radio. So instead of having a wire between your router, which I have shown on the screen, an example of a router, and your computer, what the tech companies have done is they've taken a little two-way radio and they've put it inside of each device, and that is how they communicate with each other wirelessly instead of with a cabled connection. So when you think about wireless communication, You can imagine a little handheld two-way radio in every single one of your devices that connects, and that's how they talk. So Wi-Fi in your home is invisible waves that are bouncing around everything. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how those waves interact in different environments. Basically, in my first image on the top of the screen, and I don't know if I can draw on the screen or point or anything, but you have a source and it transmits a signal. And the further away that signal travels, the quieter it gets. So the signal starts high, and as it travels along, it starts to diminish. And what that does is that creates a bubble, in essence, around the source that is the maximum distance that your receiving device can hear the signal. So between your router and your laptop, there is a maximum range before they won't be able to communicate anymore. The next image underneath, I'm just talking about a wave. Waves have speed. They travel through different mediums, like air. They go through walls, they go through liquids, they go through glass. It works very much like the waves on the surface of water. If you drop a rock into a pool and you see the waves come out from the middle, that is exactly how radio and wireless communication works. And then just to the right of that, if a wave encounters an object, it will bounce off of it. Just as if you threw a ball at the wall, it will bounce off. The waves will do the same thing, even though they're invisible. So I have a couple of examples of how waves interact with different objects in the world. In the top right, you can think of that as a large object in the middle of a room or your home, where if I have a transmitter in the corner, and let's say I'm transmitting through a staircase that goes up and down through the middle of your house, depending on the density of the materials used in that staircase, the waves may flow around it and create a dead spot. That white area in that image is a dead spot where you wouldn't necessarily be able to hear or communicate with your wireless router. The one underneath that is an example of how waves go through a wall or a liquid. So a wave coming in the air might be coming down at an angle, and then that angle changes and the waves might compress or expand depending on how dense the material is that it's going through. And then I have a few other examples on the bottom of the screen. The one on the left is an example of how radio waves against a flat surface will bounce off in a pretty predictable, regular pattern. However, that's not the case for most of us in our homes. If you look around your environment that you're even sitting in right now, nothing is flat. You have objects on your desk. You have chairs in the room. You might have a table with some decorative stuff sitting on top of it. So as radio waves encounter those objects, they will bounce off and reflect and scatter and go all over the place in different directions. The middle picture there illustrates how radio waves would go through a gap. For example, the walls in your house. If you have a wall and a doorway, it would interact like this. So the wall, depending on the material that it's made out of, might not allow the radio waves to get through, but they might go through the doorway. So those of us that maybe have a larger porch door, the waves will have an easier time getting out onto the porch versus if you have a smaller door, the radio waves will respond differently and they'll curve and they'll go through the door in ways that you can't necessarily predict without doing some additional research and testing. And then the last one is how waves go over the top of an object. So if we talk about cell phone towers that are transmitting out in the world that are trying to communicate with the phone that's inside your house, well, those waves might be going over certain objects in your house and responding in ways that you don't expect. And again, it potentially creates a dead spot if you're standing right up against the wall on the right side of that yellow partition there. So basically, the way it works is one device talks, and the one on the left I have is the talking device right now, and the others that are in your house, these little radios represent different wireless devices. So it might be a router, it might be your cell phone, it might be your tablet, it might be your smart TV connecting through wireless. Anything that has wireless capability has one of these little two-way walkie-talkies built into it, and they talk to each other. So when one is talking on the left, the others are listening, and vice versa. If another device talks, the rest of the devices have to listen. And this happens on what's called a channel. And the channels are assigned by our friends at the federal government, the Federal Communications Commission. They are in charge of determining where devices are allowed to talk to each other on the radio spectrum. So there is a dedicated area that Wi-Fi is allowed to communicate. There's a dedicated area that radar for airplanes and aircraft is allowed to talk. There's a dedicated area for military. There's dedicated areas for police, fire, emergency services, among other community organizations such as educational institutions and businesses actually have a range where if we were to use actual two-way walkie-talkie radios, business radios have their own area. So the FCC assigns that. And way back when wireless was invented, they determined 2.4 gigahertz was an optimal frequency where the waves would bounce around in a way that would provide good coverage in most homes and allow technology to communicate effectively. Well, what happened is over time, after the FCC made it law and established that this was the way Wi-Fi was going to communicate, computers got smarter. And you see the blue box there has a specific width. Well, originally that width was really narrow, and then it widened over time. So most people have 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi communication in their homes. Well, if you get into a dense neighborhood, you can start to see overlap on these 11 channels that are available. So realistically, as technology improved, the number of available channels on the bottom of this image was reduced where there wasn't overlap so that they don't interfere with each other. I'm going to talk more about that in a second. So what they did was they opened up 5 gigahertz. And they spaced out the channels a little more, a little wider, and they used a larger amount of spectrum. So that will, each one of these boxes could be one channel that your Wi-Fi is communicating on with all your devices. So they really opened up quite a bit of space. However, one drawback that I want to mention is 5 gigahertz doesn't transmit as far, and it's a lower, it's a less energetic signal, so it doesn't go through objects as easily as 2.4 gigahertz does. So I want to real quick cover a real world scenario. Irish Fest, they have an office in Wauwatosa, which they operate throughout the year when they are not running Irish Fest on the Summerfest grounds. And they called us in because they were having a problem. They could not get information from their computers to come out their printer. And the wireless communication in the building just wasn't working. Computers that were wired had no problems, but the wireless, they didn't know what was going on. So we use a special software to analyze, hey, what kind of signals are happening in the neighborhood. Because all of this is invisible, this tool gives us a way to see what's going on. So if you look at the 2.4 gigahertz band in this image on the bottom left, you can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff stacked up on top of each other. And what that is those are neighbors surrounding their building, all trying to use the same channel. So channel 6 in the middle of that image is really stacked up. And so if one of the neighbors is on channel 6 and they're streaming Netflix, and Irish Fest has a laptop that's also trying to communicate on channel 6, because there's so much data going through the airwaves on channel 6, Irish Fest can't get their print job to go to the printer. It's interfering with it. So what we did is we walked around the building, and this is a screenshot of our software in a different location. You can see the signals have dropped down quite a bit. So in terms of distance now, we're getting farther away from that transmitting source. And you can also see on the bottom of that channel 6 in the 2.4 gigahertz band, now there's an arched one. That's another device that's also trying to communicate on channel 6. So as we walk around the building, these charts change, and they show us what's actually happening to our signals. So we also went through the office, and so this next screenshot is me highlighting one of those hidden signals that suddenly popped up as I walked to the other end of the building, and it ended up on top of some of the Irish Fest transmitters. So what we did is we take a look at the available spectrum, and we go through the network and we look at different devices that are communicating on wireless, and we try to clean up anything that's not necessary. We try to move things out of the way. We talk to the neighbors if we can, and we ask them courteously, that's my 2-minute warning. We asked them courteously if they wouldn't mind helping us out, because we want everybody to be able to share the wireless spectrum equally and efficiently. So what we ended up doing is we put in some new transmitters. We took out some transmitters that were unnecessary and not being used. We cleaned up the whole spectrum, and we tried to space things out so that they're not all on top of each other. And this is one of the final diagrams that we ended up with, where you can see things are still a little bit on top of each other in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum because we have a limited number of channels. But as we move people into the 5 gigahertz area, there's quite a few channels over there that are not being used, and we try to clear the overlaps. You can see that we moved that little square box that was in my earlier photo over to channel 161. And now, because those are separated and they're not on top of each other, communication flows the way it's supposed to, and the print job gets to the printer, and the neighbor can still watch their Netflix, and everybody's happy. So, thank you for listening to my presentation on wireless, and do you guys have any questions? Or know of any neighbors that have complaints that their wireless isn't working, because we can fix it. All right, then I'm going to turn it over to Michelle. Unless I'm not hearing people.
I think Christine was want to say something.
I was wondering, how often do you recommend upgrading like the hardware, the router, and those types of pieces?
Yeah, so hacking is a big deal, and a lot of those, typically once the device ends up in your house or business, they don't get as much attention as they would have received while they were still at the manufacturer. So typically manufacturers will release software updates for those devices about every 6 months to a year to protect them and secure them. They do what's called penetration testing, and they make sure that if they find a vulnerability, that it gets patched. But tech companies like us, we try to pay attention to that. So anytime I work, if I'm called out to work on some wireless and fix the communication, oftentimes we are the ones that are putting the software updates in and making the devices current. If you have equipment in your home that hasn't been updated in a while, I would say after about 5 years, it's probably starting to get risky, and you either want to determine if there's software updates available or replace the device with something new.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Michelle, it's all yours.
Okay, then I'm just gonna. We have some new dates scheduled for Ask the Techsperts, and I'm gonna share my screen with you so you guys can see them here. So the dates that we have coming up are Tuesday, October 6th at 2:00 p.m. and Tuesday, October 20th at 10:00 a.m. And it's come to my attention that some people are having issues getting the information that everybody, or getting the links for the Zoom calls through the Eventbrite. So we have changed the link to get onto the email list, but you can also just email us. Oops. So I've just put in the link in the chat to get on the email list in case you guys are not on it. What did everybody learn today?
Well, I learned a few things from Christina's presentation about cutting down on using different words to narrow my searches better and try to avoid ad pages and things like that.
I still have a question, I guess, about Google. I used to have Bing, and then I would go into Google through there to do search. Now I don't have Bing anymore for some reason or other. I don't know, it disappeared. And all I have is Google Chrome. Is that still as good as, to search for information as just Google? I don't.
You're good. Google Chrome is the browser application you use. And since it's a Google product, they automatically default to their own search engine. When you had mentioned Bing in the past,
Yes.
you were likely going into a Microsoft product like Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer, and they default to their own Bing search engine.
Oh, okay.
So when you go into Google Chrome, you're getting Google search.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do want to protect everyone's time, so if anybody needs to drop off right now, it's 11:45. One thing I did forget to mention is that Christina is going to be back on the show at on October 20th. I also want to thank Roger and Christina both for joining us today and presenting, and thank everyone for coming.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.